Welcome back, Focus Learners. I am so excited to jump right into today's explainer because we are unpacking the absolute multifaceted crisis currently surrounding Anthropic's Fable 5. We are going to use a layer-by-layer investigative approach to figure out exactly how one of the world's most advanced AI models just suddenly went dark. And more importantly, we'll look at what this entire situation means for the future of the industry. So, grab a coffee and let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this, because you really have to ask yourself what actually happens when a top-tier, frontier AI model just goes completely offline. I mean, we are talking about a state-of-the-art system literally vanishing virtually overnight. The stakes right now are incredibly high. And it's not just a massive problem for Anthropic as a company, it's a crisis for the vast ecosystem of enterprise developers globally who rely on this exact infrastructure to power their own applications. It's an unprecedented situation, and it has absolutely sent shockwaves through the tech world. And honestly, the stark reality of this blackout is captured perfectly by just one number: 7. For 7 consecutive days now, both Fable 5 and Mythos 5 have been entirely offline on a global scale. Think about that for a second. What makes this even more striking is the total radio silence. There has been absolutely no official restoration announcement from Anthropic. None. And there hasn't been any official clearance from the Commerce Department either. For a full week, users have simply been locked out.
Now, you might be wondering what's happening behind the scenes. Well, Anthropic is currently facing massive, cascading deadlines. It's like a giant puzzle, and it's not just a matter of getting servers back online. It is a frantic race against the calendar. First up, point 1. Tomorrow, June 20, is the looming refund deadline for subscribers. Then, just 2 days later, point 2, the highly anticipated introductory pricing window officially closes on June 22nd. And finally, we hit point 3, a very quiet but absolutely pivotal July 8 privacy policy update. Let's actually break down that July 8's privacy update, because it's fascinating. It's actually a highly technical exit ramp designed specifically to save the company's domestic market. So, in step 1, Anthropic is building the infrastructure to collect government-issued IDs, facial geometry, and biometrics through a third-party service called Persona. Step 2 then uses that biometric data to strictly verify U.S. citizenship, which leads directly to Step 3, where access to Fable 5 is restored exclusively for those verified domestic users. This U.S.-only strategy seems to be their most viable path forward right now, especially since a separate proposal to grant an exemption for the U.K. completely collapsed. With that US-only off-ramp kind of coming into focus, the prediction markets are rapidly adjusting. Right now, they're assigning a 57% probability of a US restoration before July 1. And adding to this cautious optimism, former President Trump and Commerce Secretary Lutnick actually spoke to reporters recently at the G7 summit, simply stating that negotiations with Anthropic are going fine. But as we peel back the second layer of this story, the second layer of the onion, if you will, we hit a massive existential market threat. Because while Anthropic is completely grounded, tied up in negotiations, and desperately trying to build regulatory exit ramps, the rest of the market, yeah, they aren't waiting around. Their major competitors are aggressively moving forward to capitalize on this exact moment of weakness. Specifically, prediction markets are showing an overwhelming 83% confidence that OpenAI will launch their next model, GPT 5.6, between June 22 and June 28. That timing is absolutely critical. It means OpenAI is positioning to launch right next week, precisely as Fable 5's introductory pricing window is closing, and while Anthropic's user base remains locked out. Talk about a strategic strike. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer contrast between the two. Fable 5 is totally offline, right? And its premium pricing sits at a hefty $10 per million input tokens and $50 per million output tokens. Meanwhile, OpenAI is not only about to launch GPT 5.6 into that massive void, but they are projecting a huge price undercut. We're talking roughly $3 to $4 for inputs and $15 to $20 for outputs. They are coming in at literally 1/3 the cost of Fable 5. And we need to be really clear here. It's not just a cheaper model, it's a substantially more capable one. According to OpenAI's chief scientist Jakub Chako, it's a very meaningful improvement over GPT 5.5. The reported capability profile shows a context window expanded to 1.5 million tokens. That's a 43% increase. It also boasts a 10 to 15% improvement in token efficiency and brings significant upgrades to agentic workflows. It's a powerhouse. So what is the ultimate result of Anthropic being offline while competitors prepare to ship cheaper, faster models?
Well, enterprise developers are looking for alternatives right now, and this is the existential market threat. With Fable 5 sitting there as an expensive paperweight and the older Opus 4.8 lagging behind in capabilities, competitors are swooping in. Companies like Cohere are already publicly reporting huge inbound traffic from enterprise customers who are desperately looking to migrate. But this begs the question, why is Anthropic in this incredibly vulnerable position in the first place? To understand that, we have to look at the final, deepest layer of this story. We have to ask, is the June 12th export control order really the first major clash they've had with the government? To truly figure out this regulatory holdup, we have to explore its hidden geopolitical roots. The initial conflict actually began earlier in 2026. The Trump administration and Anthropic entered into negotiations over a Defense Department contract. The Pentagon proposed having access to Claude for any lawful purpose. But Anthropic stood firmly by their corporate policy, strictly refusing to allow their model to be used for mass domestic surveillance or autonomous weapon systems. Because of these clashing frameworks, those negotiations completely collapsed. Let's move to and see how this builds, because mapping out the sequence of executive actions reveals a very clear escalation. Point 1 is that early 2026 collapse of the Pentagon contract we just discussed. Point 2, which happened in the spring of 2026, features a sudden federal agency ban and the company being slapped with a severe supply chain risk label. Only after all of that history do we actually reach point 3, the sweeping June 12 export control order. So the crucial takeaway here is that the recent export control directive, which, by the way, followed a jailbreak claim originating from their largest investor, Amazon, isn't an isolated event at all. It is actually the second major government action against Anthropic. Before this even happened, the administration had already issued an immediate halt of Anthropic technology in all federal agencies. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had formally designated them a supply chain risk to national security, and the Pentagon was given just 6 months to phase their technology out entirely. This underscores a really deep, persistent geopolitical friction. And this brings us to the compounding effect of this entire crisis. The market reality of this friction is just devastating. As one analyst covering the crisis noted, the real cost isn't just the downtime, it's that your competitors keep shipping while your engineers are stuck in compliance meetings. The market opportunity costs of fighting these massive regulatory battles are simply monumental.
Which leaves us with a profound thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. What actually happens to frontier AI innovation when the uncompromising demands of national security meet the sovereign use policies of a private corporation? It's the ultimate intersection of bleeding-edge technology and global geopolitics, and how this tension resolves will undoubtedly shape the entire future of the AI industry. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive, and as always, keep your eyes on the data.